Process bus is shifting substations from copper-heavy wiring to data-driven architectures. This cuts complexity today and lays the groundwork for the virtual substation tomorrow.
This is Powering the Future, a podcast series brought to you by Smart Grid Forums. One planet, one power grid.
I'm Mandana White, and today I'm joined by Vinoo, Warrier from Kalki. He's here to unpack what utilities are really learning as process bus adoption moves from pilots to live transmission systems. Hi, Vinoo. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you very much, Mandana. It's lovely to be here.
Right. So, Vinoo, it'd be great just to get a quick overview of what some of your roles and responsibilities at Kalki are at the moment, and also what the biggest priorities for Kalki is in the year ahead.
I've been with Kalki for about 25, 26 years now. Right now, I'm a vice president. I had a consulting division that I started a long time ago. I started as a developer, then went on to do managing some projects, went on to start a services division, then worked in product management, then product development, R&D, and right now it's consulting. So as a part of my work, I also work with the standards bodies. I'm a member of the WG10, the IEC TC 57, the working group behind the 61850 standards. I also participate in the DLMS COSAM standards and DNP3 and a few other standards bodies as well.
Right.
Things that are top of my mind right now, in this long career, right now we are all witnessing a significant amount of, we are living through a very, very seminal period in the industry, the entire digital transformation that is impacting our substations, our SAS, substation automation systems, the entire power grid as a whole. So we've been seeing all these different stages of the SAS, starting from the wired bus to the introduction of the station bus goose, which brought with it a lot of benefits. Then the introduction of the process bus. I remember the time when the station bus and the goose was a big challenge and utilities were wondering whether our systems can manage with that performance, and that is now well in the past. So right now we're looking at the process bus introductions.
Right.
And it's going on forward. The transformation goes on into virtualization, centralization, all these different things.
Yeah, and the process bus has been top of agenda for utilities for some years, and we do now have some good implementations of it. As an example, tell us about the evolution of the process bus in the transmission systems, what benefits those TSOs have managed to gain, and also some of the challenges they've had to navigate, how they've coped with those.
So when it comes to transmission, I mean, that's where we are seeing all the impetus and all the momentum for the process bus. To be honest, personally, I think it's gone a little slower than I thought it would. Like maybe just a couple of years back, I thought there was already sufficient amount of industry events that took place. There was interoperability testing, there were lab studies, and pilot projects were well in progress. And I think the benefits and feasibility of a fully digital substation was pretty much proven. And I thought there would be, at this point of time, I was expecting there to be a lot more on the ground. But I think it's still going a little slower than I thought. It's not really the go-to solution that I thought it would be.
Right.
Technically, we could probably say that the industry is moving from the early stage pilots and moving towards commercial adoption, but I can't say that it's entirely in that stage, and it's not across the board. It seems to be definitely the choice for new substations, Greenfield substations, and especially high voltage EHV. That's where all the transmission comes in. But for brownfield, it is not really there yet. Probably the utilities can squeeze out some more life from the existing assets and the existing systems. Right. It looks like my experience is that EU seems to be leading. So you guys should be really happy about that. But there are many countries across the globe that are definitely in early stage pilots and even moving forward. India is also making a showing. That's pretty good up there. The Americas, of course, and I do mean both the Americas. We're seeing a lot of interest in South America, some of the utilities we are talking to, and even VPAC, we're seeing a lot of interest in some South American utilities. But as I said, it's not across the board, it's all in Greenfield. So when you say challenges and benefits, I mean, there's a lot of drivers that's driving this. Everybody talks about the huge reduction in copper cabling. That is a huge saving, obviously, in terms of costs, in terms of time, in terms of the complexity and the effort of the whole substation system. But that is not really the only driver. The process bus also brings a lot of reliability and even personal safety. If you take high voltage systems, we are talking about massive fault currents.
Yeah.
And there's a problem with analog cabling that when you have a open secondary or the CT, on the CT secondary side, if you have an open conductor, that can lead to an explosive situation. Okay, so now with the process bus, the benefit is that that is contained. You still have a small amount of cabling from the process equipment to the merging unit, but that's all out there in the switchyard. You're not bringing that dangerous situation all the way into the CRPs, into the panels.
Right.
And reliability, I said, yes, sir. So the process bus can detect a failed link. Actually, it can detect it even better than a broken analog cable can be detected. So there are a lot of benefits to this. There's some more progress in that aspect. I mean, moving on from merging units, we now have the non-conventional instrument transformers, where the instrument transformer is like a built-in merging unit. It naturally produces sampled value streams. So that is the technology behind it is kind of immune to problems like CT saturation. So there are a lot of benefits, and I think this should continue, at least specifically for transmission.
So what do you think can be done to encourage its uptake in brownfield sites? Because that's where the growth is going to come from, as you say.
The growth is, so right now we are in a stage of an insane buildup of new capacity because the drivers for it is the AI data centers. AI data centers, EV, there's so much coming up that is just taking the need for capacity just off the map, right? So that's why there's a lot of focus on new capacities. There's going to be new substations. And when it comes to new substations, as I said, this really is the choice. But brownfield, I think it's just a business case. There's a real case because a lot of the assets in transmission, the existing assets are reaching their end of life.
Yeah.
There is definitely going to be a time when you'll have to replace a lot of those assets. And when that happens, it is, I think, it's definitely going to be process bus based. That's my belief.
Right. So it's just a matter of life cycle management, basically. We need to line up with those.
Yeah. We just need to align with that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other big growth area, and I know a lot of utilities are keen in the distribution network to see the cost benefit of process bus becoming more favorable for them. When is that likely to happen? What are the timelines? What are the expectations? Do we have some good examples in the distribution network to encourage that part of the market to take off?
Distribution systems just have lagged behind in this aspect. Probably in most cases of investment, the investment dollar tends to move towards transmission, and distribution companies don't really get that huge available funds for this. Maybe that's one of the reasons. So it's lagged a little bit behind, unless it's some technology that's very specific to distribution, like there's the E4SS, the edge for smart secondary substations, right? That is right there in the middle of distribution. So that is a specific case for distribution. But the process bus, it is not so much in distribution. That the main reason is that so we just now talked about the key drivers for transmission, right? I mean, a lot of them, unfortunately, are not so relevant in distribution. We're talking about much lower voltages, so there's less danger. There's less danger of that CT secondary circuit breaking, the explosive situation that we talked about. And there's a whole lot less cabling because the substations are smaller and the switchyards are smaller. So people do lump this all into the big benefit into the reduction or elimination of copper cabling. And when that is one of the main things in consideration, unfortunately, distribution may not see the edge case. But obviously, there are specific advantages that really should get leveraged even in distribution. Some of the non-cabling related aspects we talked about, all the points we talked about, reliability, safety, reduced complexity, and time to build up, those are all still quite relevant. Very specifically for distribution, distribution has to deal with like urban spaces. So when you have an urban space and you want to put up a substation there, space is at a very big premium. And there was a report that says that the process bus alone can reduce the size of a substation by as much as 50%. I don't know if that's a bit of an overstatement, but that is still a very relevant use case, and that is specifically for distribution.
The other big driver is virtualization. So, as I understand it, in order to migrate towards virtual substations, process bus is the natural stepping stone. In fact, it's essential. Is that correct?
It's like basically like a prerequisite because in virtualization, we are talking about all the measurements. They have to arrive at the infrastructure, which is basically enterprise grade server machine. You don't really have the physical infrastructure to terminate a lot of analog cabling there. We're talking about servers. So you don't have what you have like in physical relays. So in a way, virtualization, which has its own set of drivers, right? There's a lot of benefits to virtualization, not even talking about the process bus. That is going to drive a lot of market, and that indirectly is going to drive process bus simply because you probably can't do much virtualization without the process bus.
So, is there a case that perhaps the cost benefit doesn't need to stack up on process bus because ultimately the payoff will come with virtualization, and better to move towards that sooner rather than later? What do you think?
Exactly. The benefits of virtualizations are really huge. I guess it all started with the COVID era and the huge problems we are seeing now in the supply chain. So there's just the economic driver for that, I think, is how when global resources towards components, electronic components, when they can all pivot and focus towards a certain class of hardware instead of being distributed across so many different small scale processors and controllers and all the embedded devices, that is going to alleviate some of the problems that we see till date. So that's a very big driver for virtualization, and when that is going to influence utilities, the process bus is just going to tag along with that.
Right, okay. Now, Vinoo, you're quite fortunate in that as well as working in the European market, you're also well established in the US market and the Asian market. So you mentioned that, Europe is ahead of the game in some cases. But are there any lessons that we can learn from other parts of the world? Can Europe learn from cases around the world in terms of process bus implementation?
So if you narrow focus on process bus implementation, for much of the world, I think it's all in the same bracket. So if you talk about the Americas or Europe or even in Asia, it is along the lines of what we discussed till now, the stage of transformation they are in, pilots or moving towards commercial rollout. A lot of those things are very much similar. America, the US, I think, is more risk averse, so it's taking a little bit more time than everywhere else. But I think one real differentiation, one point is in the Middle East. So we do work with a lot of utilities in the Middle East region, the GCC area. We've been working with some utilities in the Emirates and also in Saudi Arabia. So there is one thing very specific, that is that they are avoiding the process bus completely. So this is really one of the geographical preferences that is very, very specific to this region. It's a regional preference not to go for that. And they have some valid reasons for that because in that region, most of the substations are in enclosed buildings, right, with a complete HVAC systems because of the harsh temperatures and the environment. So these are all enclosed in a building. The entire switchyard is in the basement or the lower floor of the building with a good HVAC system. They're all typically GIS, gas insulated switchgear. And then the control room is just the floor above. So the amount of copper cabling is just a vertical set of ducts where the cabling just goes straight up into the panels. So when we talk to them about process bus, the feedback we usually get is we don't really see the benefit because to do that, we still have to invest in merging units. We reduce a little bit of cabling and then we have to invest in merging units. So maybe they don't see the benefit as much. But all this being said, everything else, all the other benefits, I think it's something that they need to consider, the safety, reliability aspects, the reduced complexity. There's also a lot of reduction in points of failure. There's reduction in the human error, bringing in software-defined systems. So these are all these benefits will still accrue, but in that region, I think it's going to take a little bit of time. That being said, they're not really lagging behind. They're really advancing in all the other fronts. So, for example, Dubai, DIVA, they have a concept, something they call it digitally optimized substation. So they don't use the word digital substation because that name is taken. It specifically means a process bus enabled system. So they call it a digital optimized substation, which is all the good things of automation except the process bus. So what they've done is they have virtualized almost all of the L2 level functions. So that includes the SCADA, the HMI, the gateway, all the logs, alarms, all kinds of station level applications are run as virtual machines in a pair of redundant servers. So that is very much there. And DEVA specifically, they have also signed into the VPAC Alliance. So I think going to virtualization is on the cards. It's something that they're planning to go ahead with in the near future, I believe. So when that happens, like we said earlier, the process bus is also going to come in there.
Fantastic. Well, Vinoo, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. And of course, you'll be joining us at SGT 26 at the end of March in Paris. I'm very pleased to say that Kalki have been joining our events for a number of years now, both the 61850 conference that we've been running, as well as SGT 26. So we look forward to seeing you there. Is there anything specific that you're going to be sharing and that you're looking to get from the event yourselves?
Well, yes, we have been coming there for a large number of years now. We're participating in this event, and so we have been going with a particular theme that we'll continue to follow. We're primarily participating. We have been participating with our ASC, our subsidiary, ASC's tools portfolio, and we have been plugging the theme of reusable engineering, which leverages our SCT product, SCL Manager, and it dives into the application of that to build fully automated SCL engineering solutions, which we have done for some utilities in Europe. So we'll continue to present that theme. But in that portfolio, we also have our test tool products, and we have a BNet device, which we have been showcasing in all the events till now. So the BNet device is a handheld process bus simulator and subscriber. So it can be used for testing merging units as well as protection relays. Basically, both sides of the process bus can be tested with that. So this year, we are showcasing the latest features. We have been expanding the BNet as a platform. This year, we'll show state sequencers that we have implemented, where customers can use it to build a bespoke configurable fault pattern and test their equipment. And we are also going to be launching a new application on the same platform as a traffic recorder. So this is going to be a device that can capture all kinds of traffic, SV and non-SV, 61850, non-61850, for a significant number of days for post-event analysis.
Right.
But we also have a few other offerings that we will be showcasing, like we have the AMI-related stream. So we have our DLMS COSEM solutions. We have the metering solutions. We have a million meter simulator, which is used for bulk testing. And cybersecurity consulting is something that now, as I just said, I'm moving into consulting. We are offering this consulting for design and implementation services for secure substations and plants, all the 6443 based. And lastly, we'll also be showcasing our DER gateways. That is one of the earliest certified products in the California regulation. So DER gateways, and we have a enterprise data hub on our Kalki.io cloud platform. So we are planning to have a very packed booth with all our offerings, and we really look forward to the excellent interactions we have been having with all the best minds of the industry, like we have been doing in all the past editions of this event.
Fantastic. And we're looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for your time today, Vinoo. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Mandana. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Join us again next time as we discuss another big topic shaping the future of the power grid. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Smart Grid Forums, and to follow us on LinkedIn. Until then, thanks for watching and listening.
This is Powering the Future, a podcast series brought to you by Smart Grid Forums. One planet, one power grid.